Hello everyone, and welcome to our Talk and Play podcast, where we talk about serious and not so serious subjects while we play retro video games.
Yes, and today we'll be talking about flying. And why are so many people scared of flying? Why is that the biggest deal these days? You shouldn't be, and we're going to tell you why.
So without further ado, let's blow your knowledge load. So I'm actually somebody that's deathly afraid of flying.
Yes.
Yes, you are. It's quite bad. Like, I freak out, panic attack. Maybe I cry a little bit. Don't tell anybody.
Probably does.
But I'm one of those people that is constantly online looking for tips and tricks or why you shouldn't be afraid of flying. And one thing I noticed is that nobody's really done concise video of like, this is why you shouldn't fly. It's usually just people, like flight attendants saying, here's why I'm not scared of flying. Well, cool, but that doesn't really help people that are actually terrified. And one of the biggest things that people will say, but what if the plane falls apart? Or, you know, the wing snaps off, or the engine falls off, or something like that. Oh, this sucks. So anyways, yeah, there's a lot of tests that go into planes. Like, it's not like just something that's done willy-nilly. This is an industry that's been around for how many years?
Well, yeah. So that one video and article we were looking at, so it was a new airplane, and they to make sure that it was going to be, you know, safe, they stress test it 7 days a week for 3 years straight to make sure that it was safe. And now they're talking like they're hooking it up to machines they had that like constantly put pressure on the plane, pull it, twist it, bend it, like stuff that's it's not gonna happen in an everyday flight either. And then they did that every day for 3 years just to make sure that it was safe to fly. So I mean, like they're doing their due diligence. It's not like every plane is just like a crapshoot on. This plane's probably gonna go down. I mean, the planes aren't safe.
In that video or that article, it said that they put it through like 1 billion more miles theoretically than it would ever do in its lifetime, and in that 3 years, like, it was still fine.
Yeah. They put them through a lot of stress testing, and like, so there was another one where they were testing the integrity of the wings to see how much they could bend them up before they snapped. And what they tested to was 153% more force than the strongest force it would ever meet on a flight.
Right.
So like from turbulence, from wind, whatever, the strongest that they've probably ever come across, 150% more than that, and they were still fine. I think they had it bent, I don't know what you're saying, it was like 65%, like a 65-degree angle. They had the wings, like, they were almost like that before they finally snapped.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like this is just, you know, any... Oh, that's interesting.
That's weird.
That is very interesting. Any little thing at all is gonna snap the wing. Like, no way. To take down an airplane...
Yeah.
It's a little harder than just a little bit of turbulence. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like when they're doing these stress tests, it's not the only thing that they're accounting for. Like, you'll have a lot of people say, okay, I'm in turbulence, and you can think of turbulence like a speed bump. You're going over kind of over a speed bump, or you're going into a dip, so that's where you kind of feel the up and down. And people say, well, you know, what if there's this giant air pocket and we fall out of the sky? Well, that's another thing that they take a look at. You're not going to get sent in a tailspin, because that's kind of the physics behind aerodynamics, is the way that the plane is designed. It's designed to constantly go forward, and you're not just going to go into an instant tailspin because you get a little bit of turbulence. And like Josh was saying, the structural integrity of the plane it's tested way above of what it would ever experience. So when you feel that little bit of bumpiness in the plane, when you I think one of the biggest things people say, oh, why are we going up or why are we going down? That's another part of turbulence, and there's a lot of science behind that where they're trying to find a new cruising altitude that's going to give you the comfiest ride. It's not that you're in danger. It's nothing to do with anything like that. It's simply to do with they're trying to find where, you know, the turbulence is going to spill their coffee because that's annoying for them.
Yeah, like it's literally that safe that they are not worried one tiny little bit about the plane cracking. They're just trying to make it a better ride for passengers. That's all they are doing.
If you think about it like this, is okay, you've got a safe plane, you know it's not gonna go down in turbulence, and that's the same thing for your car. Like a pothole, small pothole is not gonna take your car out. But if you've got a road full of potholes, you might look on your map to find a different road that you can go down. It's the same thing for planes. It's just they're gonna find a different airstream. So when you're in the mid-flight and you hear the engines pick up a little bit or back off a little bit, and you slightly increase in height or decline, nothing is wrong. It's just simply trying to find a more optimal flight that's not going to be super aggravating. In terms of turbulence, sure, it pretty much can't take a plane down. It's been half a millennia, it seems.
Well, and if we just look at what was that article that said that in the past 8 years there hasn't been any plane crashes due to turbulence, and it probably goes back further than that. To be honest, I feel like that was just like they look back in the last 8 years and there's been nothing.
And I think that was, if I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this one.
Be
but
careful at the top. There's guys that come from the top.
There was a pilot error that actually caused that. It wasn't a turbulence. He overcorrected. And since then, training standards have went way up. Like, pilots have to be in the simulation every 6 months just to get recertified. Stuff like that. Like, they know how to deal with this stuff. Because, in the past there was some issues and they made it better. But realistically, like your chances of going down in a plane is astronomically low. Like when you look at the numbers, I know it's hard. I'm somebody who is fearful of flying, and I've looked all this up and I've read all of it, and yeah, there is still fear for me. But one in 5.3 million chances that you're gonna
it was
a plane.
1 in 5.3 million. And that. So what essentially that equated to was if you took a flight every single day, you would have to fly. You could expect to go down once in every 14,100 years.
Yeah.
Of flying every single day. I don't know how long I've been driving for, but I would say for the most part, people have been in at least one accident in the last couple years, even. And that's not even driving every single day.
Yeah.
Like the odds are way the odds are way better that you're gonna die in a car accident, a bus accident, a train derailing, something like that. So when we were looking at this another article where it was explaining. So in I think it was 1 billion kilometers traveled in a specific mode of transportation. So there was by car, by motorbike, by bus, by rail. For 1 billion kilometers traveled, there was 227 motorcycle deaths. And then there was the motorcycle was the highest by far, which makes sense. You're traveling very fast, and it's a dangerous mode of travel because you're not protected by anything. If anything happens, you're going down.
Yeah.
And then cars were 40, and then you get to the very bottom of the list, 0.07 airplane.
Yeah.
By airplane. So it's the safest by far comparatively to anything else.
And there's a lot of things out there that people are scared about. Like, what if there's an engine fire? What if a sensor goes wrong in the plane? What if all of this stuff, critical engine failure? So we didn't research it, but it's something that I had read about beforehand, that the chances of critical engine failure is 1 in 5 billion. And by critical engine failure, I mean both engines are gone, because the planes are full of redundancies. So you've got an engine that goes down. A plane can fly just as well, perfectly fine, until it's out of gas on one engine.
Yeah, like you don't need all the engines on an airplane.
No. So you've got, on some planes, you've got 4 engines. So you could lose 3 and still be fine. And then, okay, let's say you're in critical engine failure. Okay, you're still not really in danger, because planes are really, really good gliders. They can glide for hundreds of miles before anything would happen. So normally, like, the pilot isn't stressing at all. He will just slow back on the throttle and go slower so that they can glide into an airport that's usually within vicinity. Like even over top of ocean. So let's say you're going from Canada to the UK, for example. You've got Iceland, you've got Greenland, and all these places. They purposely kind of fly near these areas just in case. There always is a contingency to get you to the ground safe. So engine fire is another one. And yeah, engines can start on fire. But engines in a plane have a giant suppression system, fire suppression system around them that'll put the fire out instantly. So that's also another thing you don't have to worry about. Sensors, I'll have 3 to 4 sensors in case one screws up. So, like, all the things that you are worried about, and if you're watching this video and you are worried about it, they're all things that they've looked into in the past, because there's been a history.
Stay away from the top.
There's been a history of these things. So, like, don't... I mean, it really is all about being in your own head, and I get it. I get it.
Well, I mean, honestly, I feel like one of the biggest reasons people are worried about it because of movies. And movies make it look like it happens all the time, and it's like this big catastrophe all the time.
Yeah.
Like, how many movies are there plane crashes? Like, the reason, Castaway. Oh, a plane crashed over the ocean and he got stranded on this island. Oh, in Alive. Like that book that we had to read in high school in the movie. Like, oh, their plane crashes going over the Andes. It's like, all these, like, horror stories, horror books, horror movies, they're all based around the fact that, like, they're all based around some big plane crash. And they just make it look like it happens so often. And that's probably why a lot of people are scared of it too, is just because they see these horrific scenarios caused from plane crashes that, you know, now they're scared of it happening to them too. And I mean, it's the same thing. Like, if you look at the movie Jaws, people were so scared of sharks after Jaws came out, where that was never really a fear before that.
Yeah.
It's just like the movies and media have a way of being able to create fear-mongering in places where it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And, like, I understand, like, there's the people who have, like, fear of heights. It's like, okay, that, you know, that makes sense. It's not so much the plane that scares them, it's just they don't like heights. You know, and in that case, it's like, okay, yeah, that I get it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So those are really the things you have to think about. Like, all of the safety precautions that are in place, all the redundant devices and safety practices that are there to make sure you get safe. You can't go down to turbulence. And the sounds on a plane are completely normal. So that kind of gets us into kind of tips and tricks for you to get through your plane ride. I am marrying somebody who works in the airline industry. So I went from never flying and terrified of flying to flying multiple times a year. And, you know, here's some things that kind of work for me. Number one, when you're taking off, you're going to hear a couple of sounds. The first thing that you're going to hear is the landing gear retracting, and there's going to be a clicking sound. You're perfectly fine. That's perfectly normal. And then the one that used to send me straight into a panic attack is when you get to cruising altitude, and then they back off on the speed, and at that point, you'll feel the nose come down. And that part always scares the hell out of me, but you just have to know that that's a perfectly normal... Did I have to go down there?
No.
Oh.
There's just like a barrel over there. You have to jump
Oh.
really fast up it.
It's a perfectly normal part of getting there. And if you are worried when you feel these things, look at the staff. I think that's like the biggest thing that anybody ever says, is look at the flight attendants. Are they worried? Are they smiling? Are they still pushing their carts? Then you're completely fine. And they've been on, you gotta think about it, they've been on hundreds of flights and they're still there.
Yeah.
And they're still smiling because it's their job. And they have no problem with it. Turbulence can't take you down, like I already mentioned. You might have some, your beer or whatever they've given you might...
God, you stupid wiener!
Might spill out a little bit, but at the same time, you don't have to worry about that. And then it's just the same thing coming down. Like, these are all natural noises.
Like, I mean, turbulence probably scares a lot of people the most.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly... Yeah, it can be scary because it's like jerking around and it makes some noise and it's a little scary, but I mean, there's I don't know what that bonus is. There's nothing to be worried about. I know it's easy to say that, and it's a lot harder to not be worried about it, obviously. Yeah. But it's not something you guys need to be worried about, especially turbulence, because that's one of the last things that's gonna ever bring down an airplane.
To be honest, like, turbulence doesn't even worry me. That is not my fear. Right? My fear is always when I do feel that inclination or declining suddenly. And honestly, it's probably because they're trying to get out of the turbulence because it's annoying to them and it spilled their coffee.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about that. Honestly, most of the injuries that ever happen with turbulence is a rolled ankle by somebody who was standing up during turbulence. Keep your goddamn seatbelts on.
Yeah, honestly, that is what they say. Most of the injuries are by people not having their seatbelts on. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Like, they're not...
What the...
Oh.
What is
that? That's really weird.
Well, this is just wonderful.
The last tips and trick here that I'm going to share with you is keep your mind busy. So you can do this in two different ways. The first way to keep your mind busy is to have something to do, whether that's listening to music that you like, reading a book. I bring my Nintendo Switch with me because that really helps. And then the other thing that you have to do is keep your mind focused on why you're on that flight. Do not keep it's called your anchor point. Do not think about the flight. Do not think about the noises. Just keep thinking, wow, I'm so excited. Because once this flight is over, I'm going to be in Mexico, or I'm going on my honeymoon, or we're going to my bachelor party here right away. So whenever something scary happens, just like, oh, that's just one more thing that has to happen before I reach my destination, and I'm doing something super fun.
Yeah.
Always keep your eye on the prize. Don't worry about the plane, because that's just your transfer. Because as soon as you start thinking about the things you're going to do afterwards, your body's going to start calming down and go, oh, well, if I think I'm going to be doing this, that means we're going to make it, and that's fine.
Yeah. And on that note, we're going to leave it off there. And we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Goodbye.